Hey everybody, welcome back. So in today's video, I wanted to just offer you a new perspective on understanding what the psychedelic experience is and how to work with it, and kind of a metaphor that I use a lot when I'm thinking about psychedelics myself and the way I relate to them. And this might be especially helpful for you if you are perhaps newer to psychedelics and you've had maybe more uncomfortable trips or upsetting trips, and you're kind of wondering, why the hell am I doing this? I hear people have good experiences, but so far mine haven't been. That kind of a thing. I want to just kind of offer this up to you. And even if you're a more seasoned psychonaut, this might be an interesting perspective, or just another way of looking at the multifaceted jewel that is the psychedelic experience. So it came to me a little while ago that taking psychedelics is not unlike being a neon sign, if you will. This is a strange metaphor, but for me, it really works. So we'll see if it works for you. I want you to imagine that every human being is a neon sign, right? And what is a neon sign? A neon sign is a tube, a sealed off tube with gas inside of it. And that gas is, inactive in and of itself. But if you stimulate it with electricity, then that gas gets excited and kind of reacts and comes alive, and the tube glows, right? So some of you who are familiar psychonauts may already kind of start to get where I'm going with this, but let me clarify this a little bit further. One way I think of psychedelics is that every human being has life force inside of ourselves. And for most of us, through the process of growing up and being conditioned and socialized and taught to, think in a certain way, emote in a certain way, we fall into these patterns of being that we confuse for who we are. And a lot of times this kind of experience of developing into an adult, being socialized in this way, has this kind of unintended consequence of dulling down our life force until it is kind of this habituated, low, dull, kind of quiet hum. And a lot of people live their entire life in that state. And I would almost imagine, the way I think of it is I'd almost imagine or liken that to like a layer of thick crud over like an old neon sign that hasn't been cleaned in a long time. And maybe almost like there's just a low level of current going to that neon sign, and it's a very faint hum, almost not even on at all. Now, when you take a psychedelic, one way of understanding it, and there are a lot of, and this is admittedly not a scientific perspective. So if you are a hardcore, militant-minded, strict rationalist scientist, this might offend you, but just think of it in terms of metaphor rather than as a hard truth. One way of understanding taking psychedelics is that we are taking in something that kind of stimulates the movement of the life force inside of us. It awakens, it shakes up, it excites and agitates the life force inside of us. And if we haven't done a lot of self-healing work, if we are generally just coming from a default walk of life of just being a normal average citizen in society, we will tend to have a lot of baggage, a lot of crud, if you will, a lot of, unresolved, pains and wounds from growing up, maybe unresolved childhood trauma, fears, anxieties, misconceptions, and flawed understandings of ourselves or of life around us or the world that we got from socialization again. These kinds of things, just baggage that just accumulates over the years, right? And this baggage really, what the psychedelics do is they excite the life force, the deep intelligence and kind of our default way of being, that inner glow, that inner radiance inside of us. And when they do that, they kind of bring up the baggage to be looked at, to be resolved, to be healed, to be transformed, to be integrated and connected to and understood and honored. There's a lot of wisdom and a lot of things to reconcile. There's a lot of loops, loops that weren't closed. At some point in our life, we had an experience and it was unresolved, and then life moved on and we just kind of let it drift away into the back of our psyche, and some part of our psyche still fucking chewing on it and hasn't closed the loop and resolved whatever the problem is. So a lot of us are carrying just a lot of that kind of stuff. When we excite the life force, it's going to bring all that stuff up to the surface to be resolved. So if you are newer to psychedelics, it's not uncommon that your first few trips will be, an interspersal of some really, poignant moments of heaviness, maybe a lot of fear, maybe a lot of sorrow, maybe a lot of feeling isolated or disconnected or whatever, what have you. And a lot of times, if you're keen enough to notice, and most people don't make this connection right away, this is usually something more a therapy-minded person would catch, you'll notice that whatever the issue is that comes up very much echoes some way you felt at a problem point earlier in your life. So let's say in childhood, you felt ignored and abandoned. That might be the kind of flavor of the issues that come up on the psychedelic, even though it might be around a different topic or a different kind of, it may not seem one-to-one like it's the same issue, but it'll actually have very much the same flavor if you're paying attention to kind of the bigger picture. Most of us don't pay attention to the bigger picture like that. So with ourselves, so we may not notice that. But major point being, the crud comes up to be cleaned off. But when we do, and as we do, and we clean out ourselves, and we really kind of dust off the sign, so to speak, and clean up the contacts and get the proper amount of wattage and voltage moving through us to really shine, the psychedelic can actually help you to really, really shine, to really, really glow in a way that maybe you haven't since you were a kid, or maybe you haven't ever, or maybe you haven't since you were, who knows, maybe as a teenager or in your early 20s, or whenever that last moment of great joy and ecstasy and self-alignment and alignment with the universe, alignment with life around you, whenever that last moment was for you and wherever that last place was for you, psychedelics, once you're really cleared out and open, really can bring you there. And so for me, the metaphor that works to kind of describe this process of getting more in touch with our inner radiance and that whole process of awakening that inner radiance and letting it be excited and bounce around and shine out through us is very much like a neon sign. That's exactly how I think about it. So, so you may be coming out of kind of being in a dull hum. You may have a lot of crud on you to clean off. And if that's the case, I just want to encourage you to be patient and to heal it, to take note of it, to not ignore it, to not judge yourself, to not be frustrated, to not, judge the psychedelic or think that you're broken if you're having difficult experiences or any of that, because none of that's necessarily true. But simply to be patient, to keep working at clearing the obstacles, clearing the blockages out of the way so your life force can shine out through you radiantly and effortlessly and easily. Because I promise you, when that happens, is the most rewarding, whole, delicious, I can't think of anything better than that. When you're fully shining your full gift, your full presence, your full intelligence, your full love, your full joy, your full strength, your full wit, whatever your qualities are as a human being, when that's all shining out through you, optimally, I don't think there's anything better. So anyways, I just want to put that out there for you. It's kind of a kooky metaphor. It's a little weird. I've never heard anyone say this before, but it's the way I think about it. Think of it like you're a neon sign, and our job is just to get the crud off of us so that we can, and get the right wattage into us so that we can awaken that inner quality of radiance and let that shine out through us. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you guys tomorrow.